Welcome to What's the Deal with Sam? Starring Sam Lilly. Join Sam as he discusses a wide variety of topics.
Fan mail.
Now let's start the show.
Thank you. What's the deal with elves? They're like dwarves with the ground. I mean, because, obviously I'm releasing this around Christmas. I got the hat on and everything, and, you assume elves, yeah. Like, they help Santa with making toys and shit, and, like, well, not shit. Well, I mean, maybe, like, I don't know, do elves shit? Do elves have to eat? And if they don't eat, or let's say if they eat magic, do you think, like, they would just not have to actually, like, physically shit? Maybe they could still magically shit, but if they didn't have to shit, would they need buttholes? I don't know, these things. I'm not saying I would need to know if elves have buttholes, okay? I'm not saying that I personally want or need to know that, but like I'm saying, that would be interesting information if it existed somewhere online from a reliable source. Okay, so like don't put that on me just because I'm curious. Being curious is definitely different from like wanting that or fetishizing that or the point is I don't know. That's really the conceit of the show is I don't know anything. And elves having buttholes is another thing that I don't know. So, tell me. But the thing is, like, you have those elves, like, making toys and whatever, the North Pole, those kind of elves. And then you got, like, the Shelven elves, right? Like, the elf on a shelf, which you think is, like, as far as I understand, those aren't, like, living things, right? They're just like a representation of like Santa's workshop elves, but like those, like, I don't know if those are supposed to be alive. That would be weird. I don't think that's the case, but like what if they're like like somewhere in between there, like Toy Story rules, right, where like they are kind of alive but like only when people aren't around, and then they can move around and do stuff, but like I mean, as creepy as that is, right? And then it's like, I don't know, like, for one thing, even if they're not that, it's like, you're putting them up on a shelf, right? Like, it's like, that's the thing where, like, you don't care about a thing, right? We're gonna shelf this, right? We're gonna come back to this later, maybe. Just leave it up on a shelf. They're not really doing a lot with it. It's kind of it's not the nicest thing to do. They just kind of, like, creepily spy on you from your shelves. But, like, I don't know, the fucking, like, if there are Toy Story rules with that, that's worse. Because it's not like you leave those out all year, right? It's like, your Christmas decorations, those Shelven elves, that just like if you put them in a box and like just store them away in some dark, cold, potentially damp, lonely place for months, like they exist for like a few weeks a year, and then it's like they're back in the box, going back in the hole. Like they're gonna have some serious problems. There's gonna be some real shit to work out when they're interacting with their normal toys that are hanging out, all year round and have a reasonable relationship with their owners. I guess it's gonna create issues. I would think. I think any toy would break under that kind of pressure, right? But like, then you've got also the like fantasy elves, and like Middle Earth shit, and it's like there's always like different kinds of those elves. There's tons of different like subgenres of those within it, but even that itself I think is like still a very different category than like the Santa's workshop elves, right? They're very different. They have pointy ears, but like sometimes like the fantasy elves are like the same sizes as people. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're like also like a thing where they're supposed to be like super old. So like, do Santa's workshop elves live forever, or do they like Are they like a normal like human lifespan, or like what is their lifespan like also? I don't know. Potentially, if they have to eat magic, as long as they can keep finding magic and they never have to shit anywhere, with the buttholes they may or may not have, like that's interesting, right? Like that's a thing to consider about the anatomy relating to the lifespan of the elf. So it's not like a creepy sex thing like you were all thinking. But then there's also like the Keebler elves, and it's like I don't even like they're barely even shown. They just make cookies, right? Like there's like I don't know, are they like some kind of like subsect of like the Santa's Workshop elves that rebelled, and they're like, you know what, we're sick of this shit. Like, I mean, sure, maybe we can make cookies there too if kids want cookies and want to play with them or something. That's why there's the gingerbread man. It's like a toy and a cookie in one. But no, like they decided, fuck this. Like we're gonna make cookies. We're gonna make some goddamn money off this. We're not gonna be some kind of weird slave labor for your rationing of magic to keep us alive and sustain us. Okay, just because Santa Claus is whoa. He's got a problem. He's going to have, like, that weight is an excess of magic that he just consumes, and I don't know how all those rules work either. Like I said, I'm no expert. I don't even know the butthole situation. I'm pretty sure Santa has a butthole, because he still eats, like, cookies and stuff. He can also eat normal food. I assume elves can, but then again, if they don't have buttholes, I don't know how they would digest things or get rid of them. So again, I'm very confused about, it's not about the butthole of the elf. It's about like what it means for the quality of life for the elves. That's really what I'm concerned about. It's about the quality of life. It's about their rights. It's about family. And the Keebler elves are out here like making cookies and making a racket with that, and then it's like I don't know, like they're probably not related to the fantasy elves, and it's like who is to say which elves are more realistic, really, and what is can they cross paths? Would they get along if they did? Would they recognize each other as elves, or is this just kind of a term for anyone with pointy ears at this point, right? Like is anyone with a pointy ears that can just be like they're an elf, like Spock? Yeah, he's like a space elf. I don't know. There's a lot of questions and woefully few answers. The few answers we do have are not really sufficient, and honestly, I guess I just feel like, I don't know, at some point, like, we're gonna have to decide, like, okay, what do we need to have new terms for these things? What does elf really mean? And should we continue to call all of these things elves, or should we make some kind of a adjustment, some kind of stand, and say, you know what, no. You know what, this is what an elf is, this is what an elf is not. I don't know, like, these are not questions I can answer, these are just questions that I can ask. And I can ask them many times, many times, every year, probably. But, that's, what's the deal with elves? And also, with that, an addendum, Santa is kind of treated as like, he's like the head of the elves. But like, how are elves born? Is it like, are Santa's kids elves, or do they just pop up via magic also? I feel like magic has to be involved somehow, right? Like, you think magic has to be part of it. But, I don't know, like, it's weird, dude. I don't know that I trust it. I don't know that I trust any of that. I don't think Santa counts as an elf. He's more like an honorary, like, he's an elf. He's an elf slaver, basically. He enslaves them. Not technically, I mean, like, it's they're wage slaves. They have to work for the magic alive until they don't die. So, like, I don't know, like, it's a dynamic that they've, I guess, become, Stockholm syndrome beaten down into by this point. But interesting. Maybe they would be better off going off making cookies. Maybe they'd be better off going off shooting bows and arrows and shit. Maybe they'd be better off doing something else that we don't necessarily even associate with the idea of elves yet. But, because of them going off and doing more things, independent of stereotypes of elves, maybe, just maybe, we'll stop focusing so much on the idea that they're elves and start focusing more on the things that they're actually doing as people, as individuals, as one of us. Happy holidays. What's the deal with Santa?